Well, I know you have a lot of field experience, Joe, and in fact, you've actually written some books in regard to metal detecting. What were some of those titles?
Actually, the main book that I co-authored with my friend Bob Sickler was called Metal Detecting Advice and Tips. It was basically a how-to, basically like almost a question and answer format. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to say that's really the only true book that I wrote. I've written a lot of articles. I've written for, Tesoro, most of the magazines that are out there.
In fact, you were on the Tesoro cover. Every year they put out an annual publication, and they had you, I believe it was on the 1995 edition?
Yeah, correct. They put out a publication every year called the Metal Detector Information Guide, MDI. And in '95, I was on the cover.
Well, Joe, I know that there's a lot of stories that you can tell on metal detecting, and I certainly, I don't want to bring up any bad memories, but I know that one time you're out in the field and you actually had a problem.
Yeah, I did.
And I don't know if you want to talk about that. You can explain.
Sure. Actually, it could be quite helpful to some people.
That's why I raised the incident, Joe.
Back in 1996, I was actually working on a field test, and it was in August 11th. Really hot day. It was in the 90s, lots of humidity, just a day you didn't want to be out. But I was working against a deadline, and I had to have the article done for the field test. So I was out detecting by myself, and a half hour later, I was flat on my back with a heart attack. I was out in the middle of nowhere. I had no one to help me, and fortunately for me, a couple months before that, my wife Karen had bought me a cell phone for my birthday, and I had the phone with me. I was able to call for help.
Well,
thank God.
Yeah, because
by the time the ambulance got there, I was almost unconscious. I was flat on my back. I couldn't do anything.
You want to give some tips what people should do? I know I always say to Roger, you shouldn't go out by yourselves. You should always have a partner in case you break an ankle or a leg or something could happen out there.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. You can go to a park or somewhere like that and you have people around, but when you're out in the woods or you're out by yourself, I don't care how old you are, or how young you are. That's just not a good idea. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for me, it worked out, but I hate to think what would have happened if I didn't have the cell phone.
Yeah, that's a case where technology really did make the difference. But Joe, getting back to our regular questions in regard to your involvement in metal detecting, I guess after that incident, then you decided that you were going to not be a multi-line dealer anymore?
Well, when you have an event like that happen that's life-threatening, you do a lot of reevaluating. You think about what's important, what's not important. And honestly, at that point in my life, I had a lot of irons in the fire. I was pretty much a workaholic. I had many projects going on at the same time. All with deadlines, and I decided to scale back after that.
You also had involvement with some of the metal detecting organizations, such as National Society of Metal Detectorists. Did you do some writing for them?
I did. I actually had a column. What happened with TIP's newsletter is after about 5 years, I stopped producing it, and basically rolled that column into the NSMD that Tesoro put out. So I was offered, a column, and I took it.
Oh, I see. But you also were involved with the Federation of Metal Detector and Archaeological Clubs. And you worked on their newsletter, correct?
Yeah, for a short time, there were some issues with getting the newsletter out on time, and they needed someone to step in and get that thing produced and printed and have it go out in a timely manner. So I stepped up and basically did that for a few months until they could find somebody to take over.
Okay, and your work for Lost Treasure, you're most famous for your field tests. And as I told you before the interview, that I'm a big metal detector fan, where I'll actually go out and I'll buy different machines, even like ones that have been out for a number of years, and I'll go back and I'll look up your old field reports and see if they're any good, if they're worth keeping in my collection. But you also wrote some other articles for like Lost Treasure, and what just some for benefit of our viewers who are not familiar with those type of articles. What kind of topics did you write on in the other articles besides the field tests?
Most of the articles that I wrote were kind of like how-to. They would be either about places that I detected and what we did and how we found coins, and kind of how-to stuff. But I also had a column in Lost Treasure for a couple of years called The Weekend Prospector. And even though it sounds like it would be all about prospecting, the column actually was about different phases of metal detecting, all different topics. And I would write about finds, I would write about equipment, how we did research and found places, what we found there, what equipment we used, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's important. People, unfortunately, I think with the prevalence of the cable reality shows you see, I don't think they're showing the reality that people don't realize there's a lot of work before you go out in the field. Namely, research is actually, I think, the most important point.
And fun, and a lot of times.
That's right, the fun. But I mean, if you're going to be on a productive site, wouldn't you agree you have to do a good bit of research?
Oh, you do. You do. If you want to find, uncommon items, if you want to get away from the, the common, Roosevelt and clad and wheat pennies and things like that, you have to put some time into research to put you on the right locations.
That's right. You have to do that so, as I know Bill said on our program, you're on the road that's less traveled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's good that that you had that column and people could learn about that. And also, you actually did some writing for Western Eastern Treasures.
I did some for them. A lot of that was freelance. It wasn't a position with the magazine, where with Lost Treasure I actually have, a field testing position with them. And some of that was done under a pen name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some of the magazines I've submitted under a pen name, yeah.
Well, would you're not going to reveal this to us?
I don't think I want to go into that right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, and also I have a notation that you had been involved with a publication called Treasure Facts magazine.
I did write articles for that magazine. That was like a sister magazine to Lost Treasure. That was a great magazine.
That was
really?
a great magazine.
I loved Treasure Facts. Yeah. It was just a great magazine.
Really? What years did they publish that?
I'm not certain. I mean, if I had to guess, I'm thinking like mid-90s to maybe late 90s.
Oh, okay.
But just a really how-to magazine. Very informative. Great writers. But yeah, I had a number of articles in there. And
Treasure Found was another good one.
Yeah, that one.
They all come out at the same time.
But the thing I liked about Treasure Facts was just the information, the how-to. You could learn so much from reading that magazine.
Yeah.
It was more than just kind of actual stories of people finding things that told you how to do it.
There was a lot of how-to in there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And then at some point in time, and I don't remember the exact date, but they actually did a Who's Who article about myself and Patriot Electronics. And it was pretty cool at the time. I enjoyed that.
I'll tell you what, Joe, why don't we kind of shift gears, and we're going to be talking about some of the products that you've been involved with. And I know that you were involved with a product called the Enhancer 1000.
Time for a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually, that product was an audio enhancer that I designed, and that would let you hear the deep targets in the ground better. Just like a gain type amplifier that increased weak signals.
Oh, I see. And that would have been around 1988 that you had been involved with that project.
Yeah, it was sometime in the 80s.
Okay. And also there was another product that you were involved with at the time, which was called cash cards.
Yeah, what cash cards were. Now again, you have to put this all in context. This was before the internet and, a lot of the things we take for granted today. So I came up with a custom index card, 4x6 index card, that had all the correct fields in there that you could enter in information about the various places that you metal detected, like where it's located, what you found, you could list, what books had reference material to the site. So it was just a nice way that you could handwrite information, put it in an index file, and then quickly access that information anytime you needed to.
And of course, that was in the days before the smartphones,
Oh, yeah.
or even a lot of people having even personal computers.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, wow. Well, there was another product too that you had. It was called the Blastmaster.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly was that product?
Again, that was an audio device. It would plug in between your metal detector headphone jack and your headphones. And what that would allow you to do was turn the volume control on your headphones and metal detector up to maximum. And by doing that, you naturally would be able to hear the deep, weak signals better. But at the same time, the way the circuit was designed, if you went over a surface target or anything on top of the ground that would be normally very loud, it would quickly drop the volume level to make it comfortable so it wouldn't blast your ears off.
Oh, wow, that's...
And it was really a unique circuit that I came up with. Most of the limiters that you look at are what's known as peak clippers, and they use a couple of diodes that basically limit the volume by peak clipping. But there's problems with peak clipping. I mean, it can cause distortion, alter the signal that you hear so it doesn't sound the same.
Now, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, the device that I did, the Blastmaster, acted more like an audio compressor. It didn't introduce a lot of distortion, very minimal distortion, and it had a broad range of ability to bring up the weak signals and bring down the loud signals.
Now, these products actually, they were analog products, right?
They were analog.
Okay. That was before actually the prevalence of these microprocessors that you have now in these metal detectors. Even in the late 1980s, most of the machines were analog.
Oh, yeah.
In
Yeah,
fact,
exactly.
I think they all were. I don't think... I think the first you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first processors in those machines probably, I would think, would have been maybe the White's Eagle series.
Yeah. Yeah, the White's Eagle and the Technetics 9000.
Yeah, that's right. The Technetics
But
9000.
even that I think had a lot of... It had some digital because it had an LCD display. But
That's right.
It was a combination, a hybrid of analog and digital.
Yeah, in fact, I think what that machine was, it was basically all analog, but it was a 1981 introduction on the Technetics 9000, but it was the first metal detector ever to have the LCD display.
Right.
That came out in 1981. It was revolutionary. George Payne
Yeah.
was the renegade White's designer. In fact, later he was sued by White's
Yeah.
Electronics on that.
That's what I hear. Yep.
Yeah.
But I think the first full digital was the Eagle.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been Eagle 1.
I believe so.
But most of the machines, everything was all the analog, and these products would have fit right in with that. And then after that, you actually had two variations of the Blastmaster. You had a Blastmaster, I believe, 4.
I had the original model, which was the first one that came out, and then I came out with the EV Plus, which actually stood for enhanced volume.
Okay.
And that was just a matter of tweaking and adding adding one component and tweaking some values.
And those products, what years would those have been made?
I'm thinking probably early 90s.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that's when that was right before really all the digital stuff had come out on the machines.
Great,
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You're welcome.